Good morning, YouTubers. T-Square here with T-Square Talk. Hope everybody's having a great day. You know, I got a great video, I think, planned out for y'all. If you guys are driving, it's going to be hard to kind of follow what we're going to be looking at today. We're actually going to be taking a look at some stuff. If it ain't going to hurt listening to it, because I'm actually going to show you guys how you guys can pull this chart up, pull this information up, and you guys can actually take a look and read through it. And I'm telling you, this has so much information in it that you could be hooked for hours looking at stuff, and it's going to blow your mind when we take a look at it. It's a hidden window in the U.S. debt clock. We're going to talk a little bit about silver, talk a little bit about gold, talk a little bit about history today. And even though you may be driving right now to work, I've read some comments from different people saying, you know, they take their hour-long drive and they just listen to the video, or half-hour drive or whatever, and they'll listen to the video while they're driving and have it hands-free and just kind of like a podcast. And ever since I heard that comment, I've started doing that with stuff that I listen to, and I'll listen to it while I'm driving. So it's going to be exciting what we're looking at today. If you enjoyed today's video, please take a quick minute, hit the thumbs up button. I really do appreciate it. Some of the information we're going to go over, I haven't read through all of it. It's that much stuff to look at. But I think there's a lot of good stuff in there. We're going to take a look at the U.S. debt clock. And if I can pull it up here, this is the U.S. debt clock. A lot of you have seen this before, and right now you're probably saying, I've already seen it. I don't need to see it again. But how many people have ever noticed this secret window in the top corner that opens up a whole lot of really cool information about the history of money, everything all the way back to tally sticks, to the revolution, to essentially the importance of money and the importance of gold and silver as money. And it's kind of, man, I am so sorry for that interruption there. It's kind of interesting when you start looking at it. It's going to talk about different collapses in currency, and it goes all the way back to essentially the beginning when it all started. It actually starts in the Bible. Even the first, little bit of it talks about in the Bible, talking about money. So, but it's not a religious video. I know some of y'all are not really religious, and so I try to stay respectful and talk about what we're here to talk about. But it is important that people understand pretty much everything and how it relates to this. So not financial advice, but a lot of good information here. We'll take a quick look at the prices real quick on gold, silver, Bitcoin. If you enjoyed today's video, hit that thumbs up button. A couple people have asked me, when's the next members event? We should be having it this weekend. We had a fluke last weekend. Some stuff came up. I didn't get to do it, but I expect it will go down this weekend for sure. So I'll have more on that later. If you're a member and you have any questions, you can leave a comment, though, in there for me. With that being said, boom, let's take a look. We got silver trading at $47.35. I'll be honest, today I actually met with someone. He told me he is done purchasing stuff for the time being. I said, really? You don't want to go take a ride and go see if they got anything? He said, nope, I'm done buying. And then his thing, he ended up picking up a little bit of gold. And we got gold trading right now at $38.66. Personally, if I could only buy one, if I had to pick one, I would rather have silver. I think silver has a lot more room to run. We're seeing the gold-silver ratio come down, which means I think silver is a better opportunity. Obviously, though, there are a lot of people in the community that prefer gold. It's a small, compacted amount of wealth in one little area. It definitely is exciting when you accumulate a little gold here, a little gold there, and little gold pieces add up quick. Taking a quick look at Bitcoin price, we got Bitcoin had a big run recently, up to 118,541. We'll see how it holds up as it approaches its high again, and I don't know, like roughly 7,000. It definitely did move up in the asset classes. Bitcoin sitting 7th now with 2.361 trillion in net worth, based off of the $118,000 price. Silver still above it at 2.6 $1.72 trillion. So essentially $3 trillion more on silver. That is based off a $47.48 price target. So as you can see, Bitcoin did pass Amazon again. It's not over it by much. It's over it by $10 billion. It ain't going to take much for, and a lot of it had to do, obviously, with Amazon having a rough day today. We have Google, Apple, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and then we have gold sitting on top. The DXY right now trading at 97.7, doing a pretty good job holding that range right there. And now we're going to jump right in because this is a lot of stuff to cover. The secret window up here, you can actually open it just like this, open. You can close it like this, closed, but a lot of good stuff. Now, if you download this PDF, it will look like this. We're going to kind of talk about some of this stuff. A lot of, I don't want to say secret windows, but just a lot of interesting stuff when you start combing through here. If there was ever something out there that has a lot of hidden meanings, hidden stuff, 3% value a year, divided dollar, 100% reserve. So a lot of good stuff in here. If you read, a lot of people will find it interesting. I'm going to kind of scroll through it. Like I said, it's 44 pages long. It is a lot of information. So we may not even make it through the whole thing. But now that you know how to find it, it's definitely interesting. Obviously, the first page, the first page was the cover page. Second page breaks it down. Den of Thieves, Tally System, Bank of England, Colonial script, failed fiat currencies, the silver swindle, Greenbacks, the crime of 1873, Fed, debt money, the Great Depression, gold confiscation, deflation in dollar in slow motion, money correction, debt money, theft by another name, rigged by the bank, the Bretton Woods system, the gold window, inflation, interest, modern swiftum, derivatives, tariffs, what is money, the money supply. It goes, there's, like I said, 40 pages of this, so a lot of information. We're not going to make it through the whole thing. This is a starter for you to kind of understand. We're going to kind of comb through it. We're going to talk about some key points. And obviously, the title is kind of what it's going to be about, each page. A page does not have a ton of information. The first one being the Den of Thieves. If anybody here is a Bible person or does read the Bible, and Jesus went into the temple of God and cast out all of them that sold and bought in the temple and overthrew the tables of the money changers, the second temple of Jerusalem. Money changers, interesting. The only time Jesus showed any kind of aggression or physical display of anger in the entire, basically in his entire ministry, has the Lord withdrew his disdain for cheating people out of their money through trickery? No. So right here, obviously, a lot of people know money changers, what that is. Obviously, manipulating currencies. And that happens a lot today. People manipulate currencies essentially so they can take your silver, so they can take your labor, so they can take your goods. There's a lot of rumors floating around the U.S. manipulates the price of oil to our advantage, so we can get more oil coming into the country, so we can keep people that work in the oil fields working. And banks manipulate silver, so essentially they can get all the silver for themselves. So obviously it's frowned upon in the Bible, and it's still at work today. It would make sense when you start reading about this type of stuff, and you can learn a lot from these. And like I said, that's the only page where it really is kind of a little religious. Taking a look at the tally stick method, or the tally stick system, 1100 to 1694. So think about this. They would basically use tally sticks to keep track of people's debt, how much you owed them, how much they owed you, that type of stuff. Interest-free tokenized assets. It's hard to believe in our technological age, but there was once a time in England that for 600 years before the banks, money was counted on tally sticks. Perfectly... how do you even say that word? Forgiven. I don't even know how they say that. Proof sticks of wood that were split lengthwise for two parties to keep. It tracked the financial transaction, mostly taxes, lost to history. Now everything is digital. It's kind of funny because if something really crazy happens, we have any kind of a Carrington effect, the grid goes down. I wonder how that would all play out. Would the debt be reset? Would everything be reset? Some of y'all know I have talked about the Carrington effect before. Major power outages, essentially caused by solar flares. The grid really vulnerable. As more and more people rely on the grid, it would be devastating. A lot of people would not make it if something happened. And, it's something I've always worried about. But here's the thing. They weren't worried about that back then. There was proof. The sticks. The tally sticks. It was a way that worked. Unfortunately, debt is always going to be a thing, I think. I don't think people are ever going to come off of debt. The 1694, the Bank of England. Debt as money. In England in 1964, a grand experiment was originated. What if money was converted from something of value to a future obligation, a promise to pay, blessed by the government? The world would never be the same. And obviously that's what we have today. We have paper notes that we go to work for, that we give away our entire life for. And what are they backed by? They're not really backed by anything. I've heard some people, even today, when I talk to people about this, they're like, well, yeah, they're backed by something. They're backed by the gold. We have gold in Fort Knox. I mean, you may not believe it's there, but it's there. But I always find it funny because I'm like, have you seen it? No. Then how do you know it's there? People nowadays are just, they believe any single thing they hear. It's crazy. If they hear it from someone in charge, they believe it. And there's nothing wrong with questioning stuff. I mean, even though I think to a certain point society is taught not to question nowadays, and it's kind of sad because essentially it doesn't help society to not question. How do you better society? Well, society needs to question stuff. I actually watched a video the other day where someone used a couple of magnets, some wire, and a light bulb and a couple other things, and basically had the light bulb working. Now, I've read some stuff that said, that's totally fake. That's fake YouTube videos and stuff. You have to have, in order to have that, you have to have something going back and forth. I mean, but there is a magnetic pull, so I can't wait to try that experiment. Now, I do a lot of weird, I shouldn't say weird experiments, but I like playing with certain stuff like that, like magnets, and I find it interesting. If you're big in science and you've seen some of these experiments, it is super awesome. Perpetual motion, that type of stuff. Obviously, though, it doesn't go on forever. It will eventually slow down, but it is interesting to see how some of that stuff plays out, and I've been wanting to try that magnet one out. Taking a look at the next slide real quick, and like I said, I'm just doing a quick overview to kind of talk a little bit about these so you can come in and take a look at this, because like I said, there's so much knowledge here. The Currency Act of 1764. British law banned the issuing of paper money in American colonies and required the withdrawal of existing paper money. The act demanded payment of taxes owed to the crown in hard assets like gold and silver. The effects were devastating to the colonies, causing a shortage of currency, greatly affecting trade and commerce. And here's the thing, another interesting thing about that. That's kind of where we're at today. We use paper money now. That's why it's easy to affect trade back and forth. If we were paying someone in gold, well, obviously they would give us whatever we need. If we're going to give them payment in gold, but we pay in paper. And whenever you have paper notes or script or something that doesn't have huge value, then essentially people start catching on to it. And I think people are actually catching on right now. It goes on to talk about the T-tax and all the other stuff. Maybe they would have paid the T-tax if they weren't stripping all of the gold and silver out of the country. So you think about it. I wouldn't be surprised if Britain knew that what was happening and they said, you know what, let's just try to get as much gold and silver out of it as we can. Kind of like what's happening right now. What's happening right now, we see currencies in multiple countries going down in value. More people are trying to save themselves and get gold, get silver, get assets that they can keep. And I think the British knew they weren't going to be able to hold the America. And so that's kind of why they were taking everything out of it that they could to preserve as much as they could. Next one, failed fiat currencies. We talk about this time and time again. Germany, China, Argentina, Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Russia. It's pretty interesting when you look at it. 1919, 10 German marks. By 1923, it was 4.2 trillion German marks per every dollar. So think about that for a quick minute. Going from a currency that you could have turned 10 in and got a US dollar to being able to turn $1 US for 4.2 trillion. And this is why you hear stories about people in Germany being able to buy whole neighborhoods. I mean, I had read a story one time where somebody was, I guess, in Germany for college, doing his college in Germany, studying, and his parents were sending him money. And here's the thing, you know, in the U.S., you get sent that money. I mean, $10 converted to $4.1 converted to 4.2 trillion. So $10 would have converted to $42 trillion. This just goes to show what happens when currency does collapse. China, I haven't talked much about China ever in any videos because I really wasn't even sure that I'd never heard about China being a thing. 1935 to 1947. Obviously, this had something to do with war. I hate to use that word if I can avoid it, but obviously that was a major factor. In the beginning, you could have gotten 3 yuan per every dollar. In 47, you'd get 15,000 per every US dollar. That just goes to show you what happened. Argentina, this is one we've talked about a lot. 10 pesos, Argentinian pesos for $1. And then, not too long down the road, 75 to 92, 10,000 pesos for every dollar. I'm not going to read through all of them. Obviously, Russia, Zimbabwe. I do want to read the Venezuelan one because this is super interesting on this one. Although, technically, Zimbabwe, holy smokes. That's actually even worse than Venezuela. Venezuela went from 4 bolivar per dollar. Think about that. You're talking 1 bolivar for a quarter. All the way to 3 million per dollar. 3 million. This one, I always thought Venezuela was the worst, but I guess Zimbabwe was the worst. 24 for every dollar. And then it went 10 billion. I've seen the $1 trillion notes, which is pretty interesting. I don't know if you guys have ever seen them. They do sell them on eBay in different places. $10 billion per every dollar. Can you imagine the guy that was buying silver in 1998 and then essentially sold that same silver in 2008? But the truth of the matter, you have to remember, it's not worth being a billionaire in this kind of environment if you're literally seeing your currency crashing, because it ain't going to take long before even that currency, whatever you trade that silver for. That's why holding silver, you don't necessarily want to sell it when it goes up. A lot of people have this belief, oh, I want to sell it and be a millionaire. And I've even thought that. It would be nice if something like this happened and all of a sudden I'm a millionaire. But what happens in the process, and this is something I talk a lot with my son about. My son sometimes, it gets me to think a little outside of maybe my own perspective. It would be nice to think of myself as a millionaire. But, he said, yeah, do you think it's going to be a great world when everybody is getting their currencies getting destroyed? People are turning to violence, robbing people, robbing stores. And all of a sudden, any money you have coming in, you can kind of kiss that goodbye. If you've got any kind of Social Security retirement, he goes, you can kiss your military retirement goodbye. It's not going to be pretty. Yeah, you might be okay, but, you're okay now. You get what you want. You eat what you want for the most part. They're watering it down. The whole reason we buy gold and silver is to prevent that watering down from happening. And so I think that's important that people are understanding that. Taking a next look for the next slide. A couple of them I looked at already. Now we're getting into territory that I haven't looked at all yet. The silver swindle. Rome started out 95% silver. As time went on, from 270 BC to 280, they were down to 55% silver. And then only 100 years later, to 300 AD, they were down to 5% silver. So you have to see what's happening here. When they were at 90% silver, it lasted a whole lot longer because this is sound money. The final blow was once they pretty much took all of it out. Silver to gold prices and mined ratio, 15 to 1 back then. Well, 15 to 1, look at what it's priced at now. It's priced at 82, I think, 82 or 83 to 1 now when you look at it. U.S. DC era. So 1873, a lot of us know these, 90% junk silver, 90% constitutional silver. In 1965, literally zero silver. They went from 90% to zero all at once. Silver to gold price ratio, 100 to 1. They show 100 to 1 because we were at 100 to 1 not too long ago. We were actually up to 125 to 1. What happens? It's crazy the way this works. But today, they would say the silver to gold mining ratio is only 8 to 1. And a lot of people don't talk about this, and I think people are going to learn the hard way when silver just really skyrockets and gold hasn't done as much. Now, real quick, I want to remind people to make sure they put a comment on today's video. Why? Because tomorrow, for tomorrow morning's video, I do end up reading the comments and try to reply to people's questions, people's thoughts. So it's important that you leave a comment. You'll give me something to talk about on Friday morning's video. A lot of people said they like that because they can ask a little question and kind of get my perspective on it during the video. Even though this is not financial advice, it's still good to hear what other people think. Even me, I have conversations like this with my son because he brings a different mentality. I am all book. I read a lot on the books. I follow a lot of this stuff, and I keep up with it. Sometimes he enjoys life a little bit more, maybe. I know this sounds bad. He spends, obviously, a little bit more than me, and he sees how bad things could get if the currency collapsed. Whereas maybe from a prepper standpoint, you're like, I don't care. I got what I need. I'll be okay. Family will be okay. Maybe I'll be okay, but how bad will things be? So, okay, moving on. The Greenbacks. So this, I haven't read any of this. Is a lot of writing. A lot. Let's see here. To fund the Union in the Civil War, European banks wanted to charge 24 to 36% interest. Instead, Lincoln printed debt and interest-free greenbacks, paper currency, to continue the war. 450 million greenbacks were printed. About 8% of the GDP. Now, if you follow this, what happened between the North and the South? Obviously, everybody knows about the Civil War, but what a lot of people don't know, the losing side, their currency was worthless. Instantly worthless. The Panic of 1873, several factors coveraged in the fall of 1873 to create a panic and a depression that lasted for years. The two main monetary crisis were the planned calling in of the greenbacks and the demonetization of silver. Think about that. We've seen this before. Silver demonetized. We're not going to make money out of silver. We're going to make it out of paper. History pretty much rhymes. We understand this. We've seen it. We've seen it recently. A lot of you are watching this video. It's important that you understand this because, I mean, you can look at what happened back then and know that it's going to happen again. Moving on, the crime of 1873, dollar to silver ratio. And then it has a lot of charts. Let's see here. Will work for food, crossed out, fiat, or gold, but I prefer silver. Monetary creation is a scam. Only a wizard could love. That's kind of funny. Let's see, an ounce of silver for a day's labor. Think about that. Ounce of silver. How many people here today would go to work for an ounce of silver? I mean, $50. That's below minimum wage, that's for sure, if it's a day's work. During a 100-year period from 1773 to 1873, a single ounce of silver paid for an average day's wage. Today, it would nearly take 10 ounces of silver. Keep in mind, when this was made, silver was at like $25, $30. Now we're at 50. We're seeing the swing. I think there's a lot of people that would work for 10 ounces of silver. I would go to work for 10 ounces of silver in a minute for a day. The war on the price of silver lasted 150 years. If only 2% of the world's population bought 1 ounce of silver, the true price of silver would be revalued, which is between 10 and 20% of the price of gold. That's interesting when you really think about it. But here's the thing. The average people don't buy silver because they don't understand it. Fed debt dollar, time's up. The Fed banking cartel expired. Criminal, not federal, and not reserve. Yeah, I mean, this idea of what they're doing, first of all, a lot of people don't even know the Federal Reserve is not federal. There is no reserve. They don't have the gold, most likely. A lot of people know that now. And on top of that, the whole Federal Reserve System established in 1973. I mean, it was done on Jekyll Island on Christmas Day, essentially. They voted it in on Christmas Day. Why would you have a major vote on Christmas Day? I really can't believe that one of the two parties, and I probably shouldn't say that just in case maybe someone sees this video, I can't believe one of the two parties haven't called in some major vote to happen on Christmas Day and just push something out when they know people won't show up. If all the insiders get told, hey, make sure you come in on Christmas Day, boom, Christmas Eve night, they announce it, shoot a text to everybody, and the majority of the people show up, or a handful of the people show up, that are all on the insiders, what would happen, how that would play out. The U.S. money supply. Obviously, the money supply continuing to climb, and that's why we have so much debt. It can never be paid off, the debt that we have today. They just keep printing and printing money. As they print more money, it literally makes that money worth less and less every day. Gold confiscation. This is something a lot of channels have talked about. I've talked about it in the past. Back then, though, here's the thing about gold confiscation. The money was gold. That means you didn't have a $20 bill sitting in your pocket. You had an ounce of gold in your pocket. People carry gold. They understood gold was money. Now, first, they didn't just roll out a confiscation. Yes, they did say you have to turn in your gold. However, you got compensated for it. The theft wasn't even, in my opinion, the gold confiscation. The theft that happened was the revaluing of the gold afterwards. They knew they were going to revalue it. The damage was already done. Once they had it all, then they revalued it. Now, as for today, the question comes up, would they confiscate our gold today? I mean, they can do whatever they want. How many people would probably willingly take their gold or silver to the bank? Not many, I'm not convinced. I'm convinced not many people would. People don't have the same faith and trust in the government today that they had back then. Back then, it was true patriotism. They would give up their money to buy treasury bonds just to help America. We don't see that today, although they called it war bonds, I think, back in the day. You don't see that today. Why? Because it's a bunch of spoiled kids that can't even get along. They can't even agree on stuff. That's why we have a whole government shutdown right now. It's literally ridiculous, in my opinion, what's going on. Okay, taking a quick look, the deflating dollar in slow motion. A lot of people have heard this. It happens slow at first and then all at once. The purchasing power of your dollar has been going down over the years. The chart, as you look at it, it's down basically 97%. As you go back, they had the gold Caesars in 33. That obviously brought down the value of it. The Bretton Woods in 44. The gold standard was abandoned in 71. And once they abandon it, literally the dollar has no value. It's just paper. The M2 money supply, look at how it's growing. 1913, 1960, 2000, 2025. I mean, this just keeps going and going and going. Up 1,100%. It's crazy. 22 trillion from 20 billion. It's crazy how they just continue to print, and people wonder, why doesn't our dollar have any value? Some people don't even understand. They think greedy corporations are raising the prices. It's not just that. Taking a quick look at the next slide, money creation, magic show. It literally is when you really look at it. Fed debt money, deception, Fed-based money, amount deposit 1,000. 90% of deposits are lent out with 7% interest. So 90% gets lent out. And some of y'all know how ridiculous this is, because you deposit 1,000, then they get to loan out 900. Then somebody puts the 900 in their bank account, and then they get to lend out $810 of that. And then that $810 gets put in someone else's account. They get to loan out $730. What does this do? This creates a huge money supply, and it's us creating it. That's why some people frowned on me when I did my video where I had bought some gold and silver on 0% interest credit debt, because it means that I'm helping create the money supply. I'm upping the money supply until I pay that debt off. But here's the thing. Even once I pay that off, they've still got money loaned out. The money that I originally spent, it went into the system, and so on and so on. The credit supply obviously continues to grow and grow and grow, because at the first it's $1,000. That same $1,000 goes up to 19, then 27.10, then 34, and it just keeps going and going and going with no end in sight. The debt money ripoff. Let's see, total U.S. debt. Wow, they're predicting $102 trillion. I don't know if that's actually wrong, I think, unless I'm misunderstanding how that's being read. It's hard for people to believe. It defies description and imagination, but our money is issued as debt. Yes, mathematically unpayable debt with interest. The system created in 1913 was rigged by the big banks from the start. It was designed to be reset when it ground the economy to a halt. When it grinds the economy to a halt. When taxes and debt services overwhelm the ability to pay it back. I don't know. Think about that. Are we getting near that point? Is the economy getting ground to a halt? Do we have the ability to pay off the debt? Clearly, we've talked about the debt. There's no way we can pay it back. It's only going to get worse. And it's kind of interesting when you see that. Let me just take a quick look here, how long we've been talking. Ooh, 34 minutes. Okay, actually, I'm making pretty good time. The Ponzi King. Now this is funny. I've actually seen these before. These little charts right here. Some of you all know what the Ponzi scheme is. You had Charles Ponzi in 1920, Bernie Madoff in 2008. Everybody should know who Bernie Madoff is. Not everybody knows who Charlie Ponzi is. Scammed $20 million. Bernie Madoff scammed $65 billion. But that's nothing compared to the Fed. From 1913 to 2025, they have scammed $37 trillion. Literally is the Ponzi scheme. Let's see here. And what is, some people always ask me, I've been asked this, why, I should have actually answered that on here. Some people ask me, well, what really makes it a Ponzi scheme? The truth of the matter is, if they're essentially selling treasuries and they can't pay those previous treasuries off, the $37 trillion worth, the only thing that keeps it going is being able to sell more treasuries. It's the same way with Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff eventually collapsed because he couldn't pay off new investors. They started slowing down. The previous investors wanted their money out, and I'm sorry, we don't have it. So it just kind of eventually caught up with him. Rigged by the banks. Everything is rigged by the banks. Top 1% of, well, let's see here if there's something good. Theft, heist, robbery. Jekyll Island, we talked about that. Excuse me. A little yawn there. Not really a whole lot to say about this one, because we've already talked a little bit about the Jekyll Island and how that all played out. From the interception in 1910, Jekyll Island, the Federal Reserve, along with fractional reserve banking, was designed to extract the wealth from the working class to unproductive banking classes. It was a carefully crafted plan, scheme to skim 20% of all commerce and wealth. You think about what inflation is. Inflation supposedly is supposed to be 2%. Is it 2% of everybody's money? I would say it's a whole lot higher. As they print more money, as they create more money, it makes the previous money worth less. But they get to use their money first, which means anybody that gets it first actually has pull. That's why there's the old saying, your money will never be worth more than it is today. So unless you got gold and silver, then that's different. The Bretton Woods system, probably not a whole lot to talk about this because everybody has talked about this or heard about this. The great fiat setup. The plan for banks for the last 150 years was to remove the idea of money as representing assets, to make money strictly a tool of wealth transfer. And they have done an amazing job at that. That's why we don't use gold and silver, and most people don't even know, really understand what gold and silver is. I hear people look at gold and they tell me, oh, it's just because it's a collectible. It's a collectible coin. That's not why we like silver. That's not why we like gold. It can be a beat up silver round, and I would still be interested in it if I can get it at spot price or less. The gold window. Not being able to exchange their gold. In the old days, you had notes that were backed by gold. 1971, no more gold. Literally, that's it. Can't exchange it. And that was the end of it. August 15th, President Nixon quietly defaulted on America's commitment to exchange gold for U.S. dollars. Why? Because we wanted the gold. We didn't want the paper. Moving on, inflation. Probably don't need to talk much about the inflation page. We all know what inflation is. Prices for everything is going up. That's why you can't go to the movies for a quarter. You can't buy a can of soup for a dime. It's only going higher. Here you look at this chart right here, the tomato soup. Back in 1900, a can of soup was 10 cents. As time went on, the price just continued to grow and grow and grow all the way to today. You're lucky to get a can of soup for $1.75. So inflation is pretty obvious what's going on there. Interest. Everybody knows what interest is. Money paid regularly at a particular rate for the use of money lent. But the truth of the matter is, To them, it's just digits on a screen. Don't think for a minute that they can only lend the amount of money that the bank has. If they need money, they can just call up the Fed and they will instantly deposit that much money, and they'll get a small interest payment, but it's no big deal because they can take that small interest, loan it out to other people, and essentially make more interest off them. That's why you have a Fed interest rate, and then you have your car loan interest rate, your house loan interest rate. They make money. It's just, to them, it's just digits on a screen. If you gave me the ability 5 years ago to borrow $1 trillion, well, hey, that would have been great. What would I have done with it? I would have bought a lot of property, bought a lot of houses, bought a lot of silver, bought a lot of gold, and all of that would be worth a lot more today. Well, that's kind of what the Fed has. The Fed has that ability. Moving on. Modern Swiftum, fraudulism, Fed Orca. I don't even know how they pronounce that. Fed Orca. I don't know how that word's pronounced. Medium income, 50 to 75. Fees, land, taxes, tithes, livestock, 30 to 60%. I'm just kind of looking for something good to read on this one. I mean, clearly we know we're getting screwed. Although there are people that don't know that. I shouldn't say we know. We watching this video know it, but the average person may not know it. Gotta do this slow. Derivatives. Global currency derivatives. How is it possible to go from 0 to 729 trillion in national value of currency and interest rate derivatives in 30 years when trade can be leveraged 10 to 100% and markets can be manipulated to earn massive profits with little risk? I mean, the truth of the matter is there is no risk anymore because banks get bailed out. Government bails them out. Taxpayers pay the government, and they'll just bail out whatever they have to. They need to start letting banks fail. I hate to say that. If a bank don't know how to manage, you know what? What do you think would happen? They would start canning banks. Banks would start going under. Yes, people would lose money. I hate to say it. Oh, well. Then people would learn what money is. But the truth of the matter is they don't want to let banks fail, because if banks fail, people get mad, and what will they do? They'll turn to real money again. They would move to gold and silver. So they need to keep this Ponzi scheme alive, and in order to do that, they need to convince us that banks are totally on the up and up. Tariffs. Obviously heavy right now in talk. I'm sure everybody knows what tariffs are, understands how they work. Obviously, it's a way to manipulate stuff. In terms of moving labor to countries back and forth. If you want to charge more on tariffs, then the theory is that people will move their companies to the countries that they don't have to pay as much in tariffs. On top of that, here, for 100 years, the world has witnessed the horrors of communism, and some of these words I just don't know how to pronounce. Affect civilization, control and expansion by any means. They don't really talk. Between 1820 and 1913, the U.S. government was mostly funded by tariffs at just 3.5% of our GDP. Tariffs bringing $100 trillion a year of revenue. And you know, I think this kind of is why people think, oh, tariffs are all good, because in the past. But here's the thing. The truth of the matter is they're going to keep hitting us these temporary taxes. And I call them temporary taxes because when federal income tax came out, it was designed to be temporarily. Although they said it was temporary, who knows if they actually already had it in mind that it would not be temporary. Kind of crazy. Like I said, some of this stuff gets pretty deep. I don't know everything. I recommend people, though, look at it. Start scrolling around. I guarantee you every time you look through a little of this and start reading it and following it, you're going to learn some new stuff. What is money? Let's see here. a unit of measure, medium of exchange, a store of value, an asset backed, right of insertion. I don't know what that is. I'm not even sure what that is. Public audit. Let's see. Counterfeit, effective. When you look at this, though, and you look at constant supply, here's the thing. There's nothing constant when you're printing money versus a variable supply. They control it. They tighten the money supply. They limit it. Taxed. Obviously, if you're holding gold and silver, yeah, you get taxed when you sell it, but that wasn't our founding fathers' thoughts. And some people would say it's not really taxed. That's an opinion, not something. The law states that, yes, you're supposed to pay taxes on it. And if you make a profit, you're supposed to pay taxes. However, it does not mean when you go to buy a silver dime, you got to pay a tax on it. Not every state has that. But when you make a profit off anything, they do expect that you report it. And that's an honor system. But you can go through this, kind of read through that. I'm also looking at, we're on 27 out of 40. And let's see here. We're 40 minutes in, 45 minutes in. The money supply. We've talked about this. The money supply continues to grow and grow and grow. And it has to keep growing. You know, the easiest way to explain money supply, if I start my own new money and I loan one YouTuber, one of you guys, one of you that are watching this video, I loan you $100 T, my own currency, and I tell you pay me back 105, where do you get that other 5 from? You can't, because you're the only one that has it. So to make sure that I get my profits, I'll loan somebody else another 100 until then they got to pay me 105. One of you, 2 people are not going to be able to pay it. But I want to keep the game going, so I'm going to loan 2 more people, 4 more people, 10 more people. Remember, there is never enough money in the system to pay it all off. And that is why there's no end to it, to debt and stuff. So I'm scrolling through. Usually, I don't even know much about this one. I'd have to read through all that. Let's see. The room. The elephant in the room. I was like, the in the room? And then I realized, oh, it's a play because there's an elephant there. 18.5% GDP. Obviously, our debt keeps going up. GDP not going up as much right now. Let's kind of start flying through these. Liberty versus tyranny. Obviously, if you hold gold and silver, you have options. For those of you that are holding physical ounces of gold, those of you that hold paper, you have less options. And those of you that are at some point down the road holding central bank digital currencies, here's the thing. They can tell you they expire in 30 days from now. Yeah, we're giving you your Social Security, but if you don't spend it in 30 days, we're taking it back. And this is not even really a new thing. This has been tested. A lot of people don't know this. I was in one state, and someone told me that they got food stamps in that state. And I was talking to her, and she said, yeah, but we have to spend it, or we essentially will lose it at the end of the month. I don't know how true that is, but, I mean, you can let me know if you've ever known anybody that got food stamps. Did they lose them? I mean, that's one of the reasons why a lot of people don't want to go to a central bank digital currency. They recognize that if that happens, they have too much control over us. They don't want you're hurting global warming, you're buying too much gas, you're driving too much. You know what? Cut the gas off now. You can only buy so many gallons of gas per month. And there's too many control features. You can't really do that with cash. Now, there are going to be loopholes in anything. If I don't drive at all and somebody else does drive a lot, maybe I will use my central bank digital currencies to buy him gas. And maybe I am a drinker and I drink every night, but they don't want me, or ammo. They don't want me buying more than 2 boxes of ammo a month. They don't think I need it. I might end up buying gas for someone, and they might end up buying me ammo. Who knows? Flip the switch. I don't really understand this one all the way yet. I'd have to look into it a little bit more. And like I said, I am getting pressed for time. I don't want the video to be too long. And this is why I told you guys can check this out yourself. The big bank squeeze. Scroll through here. We're going to speed it up a little. Devaluation. We've talked about devaluation time and time again. Obviously, as they print more money, they're devaluing the dollar little by little. And a day could come where they just do a massive devaluation. The simple plan. The transfer of power, we the people. Fake money, stolen wealth, broken trust, property tax, income tax, social credit score. I mean, all this stuff is all a way to control people. Let's see where we're at, because I do want to get to the end of it. Just even if it's just scrolling. Some of them I really like talking about, probably because I know a little bit more about some of them than others. Balanced budget. We've never been further from a balanced budget. You can read up on what would have to happen, what's going on, why we don't have a balanced budget. G-money, government money, tracking where 40% of every dollar is spent, government overspending, political donations, campaign spending, government contracts, non-government ORGs. Obviously, you look at where money goes. Doge audit trail, real-time public ledger. I don't think, who knows where this is going to go eventually. I still think the system is going to break down and have to revert back to something in the form of gold and silver eventually. And even if it doesn't, let's just say we go to central bank digital currencies, a lot of people aren't going to accept them. They're not going to accept them. And if they do, they might be like me and say, okay, yeah, I'll open an account. I'll take the free money you're going to give me. But ultimately, I'm not going to really interact with it on a day-to-day basis. I'm going to try to do more trade with friends outside of the system. There's going to be people like that are just going to refuse to. They're not going to want to play ball. But obviously, they're still going to want their retirement, their Social Security, so they're going to have to kind of play ball. But they're going to be looking for ways to get it out of the system, and that's why a lot of people are buying gold and silver right now. Money reinvested. Let's see what they were getting at here. I don't even know what they were getting at here. Sovereign wealth reserve. Moving on. Some of this stuff is stuff they want to do, too, and not stuff they already have done. Debt to wealth. Actually, I think we're close to the end now. Yeah, we're getting close. Ownership. Sovereign wealth reserve. This is something they're talking about trying to do. I don't know if they'll ever do it. I mean, that would imply we have something. They should call it a debt reserve, because that's about all we have is debt nowadays. Declaration by we the people, and new money for new America. Yeah, it'd be nice if we get there, but who knows. So like I said, we just kind of ran through it, kind of rough speeded through it. It's super easy. If you go to US debt clock, you can click on the secret window up here, open, close. It does take a few minutes if it's the first time opening it. But, I mean, I look at this a lot because I'm fascinated with how quick the debt is growing and how it is growing faster and faster and faster each day. I'm fascinated with the precious metals area down here in the corner. So it's interesting. Excuse me. Let me jump back over here for a quick minute. If you guys did enjoy the video, let me know. Let me know. Tomorrow, it's going to be all about comments. Tomorrow morning's video. So if anybody has a question, you can ask it, and then I'll talk a little bit about it in the video that I make for Friday. So with that being said, hit that thumbs up, leave me a comment, and we're at 54 minutes. I say I don't worry about the time, but I don't want it to go over an hour. Too long, I mean, people never finish it, and then it really hurts my numbers here on the channel, though, with YouTube. So thank you all for watching. Hit that thumbs up button. Check out some of these other great videos, and I will see you guys again tomorrow on T-Square Talk. Hope you all have a great Thursday. Keep your eyes open for deals right now on silver. If you can get anything at spot price, obviously pick it up, I think. I think you can't go wrong at spot price. If you find anything under spot, obviously that implies too. So with that being said, I hope you all have a great weekend, and thank you all for watching. Take care, everybody. Have a great one. Bye-bye.